By 2 a.m., I had my crew on site. Jake and Luis, two of my best drivers, rolled in with flatbeds. We wore reflective vests and body cams. Every truck marked, every move recorded. I wasn't just planning revenge, I was making sure it was legal and airtight. Start with the Lexus. I told Jake, she's been the queen of this parade. He grinned. You got it, boss. One by one, the cars were lifted, secured, and rolled out. We were surgical, quiet, efficient. By 4:30 a.m., the lot was empty. Not a single tire mark left on my gravel. I stood there, arms crossed, watching the sun creep up over the rooftops. Somewhere behind those windows, HOA board members were still asleep, dreaming of brunch and wine tastings at the clubhouse. Smug in their imagined authority, they were about to wake up to a very different morning. 6 to 15 a.m., the screaming begins. It started with a shriek. I was back in my office when I heard it echo through the lot. I stepped outside to see Karen, the HOA president, standing in her robe and slippers in the middle of the gravel, spinning around like Dorothy in A's, except her yellow brick road was gone. Where are the cars? She gasped. I leaned against the railing. Which cars? Don't play dumb, Bryce. We had 12 vehicles here last night. I took a slow sip of my coffee. You mean the ones trespassing on my private, legally registered, clearly marked property? Karen's lips twitched. This is harassment. You're retaliating against the I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and played back footage of her waving people into the lot yesterday. Looks like you're the one coordinating unauthorized use of someone else's land. She lunged at me like she wanted to slap the phone out of my hand, but stopped short, realizing a camera was watching from above. Then came the best part. You don't know who you're messing with, she hissed. No, I said, stepping down the stairs slowly. You don't know who you're parking on. 7 a.m. Phones exploding by 7. My business line was lighting up with calls. My Tesla's gone. Was it towed? I was just there for the HOA wine tasting. How can you charge $450 for an overnight release? I politely directed every caller to the city's impound regulations. My tow yard was fully licensed. My signage was legal. My cameras were time-stamped. I had every car's plate logged, every tow documented. One of them even threatened to sue me. Go ahead, I said. But your car is still on my lot until that tow fee's paid. Karen's next mistake around noon. Karen returned. This time she brought a clipboard, 2 board members, and a smug young guy in a typewriter, some HOA attorney. They marched up like they were about to reclaim the land for their imaginary kingdom. We're issuing a she declared, handing me a paper. I glanced at it. Pure fluff, no court stamp, no official seal, just HOA letterhead and a lot of bold text. Karen, I said, deadpan. I run tows for companies that send out real sendists. You're out of your depth. The young guy looked nervous. He leaned over to whisper something to her, probably realizing the HOA had just poked a bear wearing a high-visibility vest. Closing the day, the calm before the real storm. By sunset, the HOA parking lot was overflowing with frantic members. Their party had turned into chaos. Karen was yelling at someone on her phone. 2 homeowners were arguing over who had called in a favor to get their car back first. And I sat in my office, eating leftover brisket and watching the footage roll in. This wasn't just a tow job, it was war. And I had the leverage, the land, and the law on my side. Monday morning came with a different kind of storm. When I arrived at the office, I noticed the first sign something was wrong. A bright orange violation notice duct taped to my front door, operating without proper permits. Cease operations immediately, I chuckled. It didn't take a detective to figure out who was behind it. Inside my office, the phones were quiet. Too quiet. I checked my online booking system, then not a single service request. That's when Luis rushed in. Boss, something's up. Our business listing. It's been flagged as permanently closed. I nearly dropped my coffee. I sat down, pulled up our Google profile, and, sure enough, our 5-star page was marked permanently closed with a warning about illegal operations. Photos were missing. Reviews had been spammed with 1-star bombs, all posted within the last 12 hours. This wasn't random. This was war. The paper trail trap. Karen had clearly launched a full-blown smear campaign, and from the looks of it, she had roped in a city inspector, probably through some HOA contact. But here's the thing about trying to sink a guy who deals with fraud on the regular. You better come correct. Because I had cameras, voice recordings, timestamps, even a signed lease from the inspector's office from Jaspanya confirming I had all the necessary permits. So I made 2 calls, one to my attorney, Mitch Sharp, vicious, and always one step ahead, and the other 2, a buddy in local news.press, pressured by 4 p.m. Karen's HOA was being bombarded with media inquiries. Turns out, when you mess with a small business owner, especially one with surveillance, footage of the entire event, you risk going viral. Mitch made sure of it. He sent a formal cease and desist to Karen's personal email and the HOA board, threatening a defamation suit and damages. The best part? We CC'd every local outlet, caught on camera. Meanwhile, my team recovered the footage from the night before. The moment a woman in a floppy net walked right up to our storefront and slapped the violation sign on the door. She looked around, She smiled at the camera, and then she pulled off her hat, Karen, plain as day, in high definition. I posted the video to my personal business page with the caption, "Caught in the act. HOA. President vandalizes my business after I tow illegally parked vehicles off my land." Within hours, the comments exploded. "This is insane. She needs to be removed. I'd hire your tow company out of pure respect. She's gonna learn today." Karen had messed with the wrong Manand. Now the entire neighborhood knew it. The final blow for now that night. I got a call. It was Gregory Langston, one of the senior members of the HOA board. We'd never spoken directly before. "Listen," he began, voice sheepish. "We didn't authorize Karen to do whatever she did. A few of us are reconsidering her leadership. I didn't say much. I didn't have to. The damage was already done. It was all self-inflicted. But inside, I smiled, because I knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't the kind of person to back down quietly. She'd come back louder, nastier, and more desperate. And when she did, I'd be ready." It took exactly 3 days for Karen to escalate again. I was finishing up some paperwork when a courier walked into my office with a manila envelope and a stiff expression. "You've been served? Civil complaint." Karen had officially filed a lawsuit on behalf of the HOA claiming emotional distress, harassment, and loss of community trust caused by my unauthorized towing and public defamation. The kicker, she was demanding $50,000 in damages and an injunction to bar me from operating my towing business within 500 feet of the HOA perimeter. I laughed so hard I nearly fell out of my chair. The legal web she walked into. Karen may have had a law degree from the University of Pretend Power Trips, but real courts don't play games. I called Mitch, my attorney, and scanned the documents to him. "This is a joke," he said immediately. She filed in small claims with no actual evidence and listed herself as the HOA's representative, but didn't even get board approval. "So what happens now?" I asked. "Now," Mitch said, "we return the favor." I hit back, drafted a counterclaim, and not just any counterclaim that we accused Karen and the HOA of trespassing, malicious interference with business, attempted defamation, and, most critically, fraudulent representation of HOA authority. We also filed a subpoena for the HOA's internal meeting minutes. I had a hunch they'd skipped protocol when deciding to sue me. That hunch, it was dead on, turns out. Karen had filed without informing the full board. She had used her personal connection to a local notary, filed some paperwork after hours, and slapped the HOA's name on it like she was queen of the neighborhood. The board begins to crack by the following weekend. Whispers were spreading like wildfire. Gregory, the board member who had called me earlier, showed up at my office with coffee and a pale expression. "Bryce," he said, "I didn't agree to any of this. Neither did Marie or Chen. Karen did it on her own." "Then you've got a rogue president on your hands," I said, "and she's about to drag you all down with her." He nodded. "We're holding an emergency vote. Meanwhile, I keep towing." Karen had gotten sloppy. Despite her bogus legal filing, she still hadn't told residents not to park on my lot. Either she thought I wouldn't dare tow again or she was too busy dealing with the legal mess to care. Either way, I kept the signs up, I kept the cameras rolling, and I kept towing. By the time court day arrived, I'd moved another 9 one meticulously logged, each one returned only after the fees were paid. I made sure to include that revenue on the record too, because nothing rubs salt in an HOA queen's wound like watching her mess literally fund your business growth. The setup for courtroom chaos. The morning of the hearing, I walked into that courtroom wearing my cleanest company polo, documents neatly stacked in a binder, and Mitch by my side. Karen was already there, standing stiffly in a pantsuit 2 sizes too tight, gripping a leather-bound folder like it contained the Holy Grail. Her smile dropped the moment she saw Mitch. "You brought an attorney?" "Of course," I said. "Didn't you?" She hadn't, and judging by the red creeping into her face, she was only just realizing what a colossal mistake she'd made, because this wasn't a TV drama. This was real court. And Karen was about to get grilled. The courtroom was packed. Apparently, word had spread about HOA President Karen's crusade against the towing guy, and a handful of neighborhood residents showed up to watch the drama unfold. Some were curious. Others looked downright entertained. A few, I could tell, were there for moral support. For me. Karen walked in with her chin high and a stack of disorganized papers. She kept glancing around like she was waiting for applause. It never came. The judge sees through the act. Judge Menendez was the no-nonsense type, glasses low on her nose, and the kind of tone that made even confident lawyers tread carefully. "Ms. Palmer," she said to Karen, "you are representing both yourself and the HOA." Karen cleared her throat. "Yes, Your Honor. As president of the board, do you have documentation showing that the board authorized this legal action?" Karen froze. There it was, the opening. She fumbled with a manila folder, pulled out a single page, unsigned, undated, and handed it over like it was gospel. Judge Menendez scanned it, then slowly looked up. "This isn't valid board authorization." Mitch leaned toward me, whispering. She just torpedoed her own case. "Mitch goes in for the kill now. It was our turn." Mitch stood, calm and professional, and handed the judge our bundle of documents. Certified permits, security footage, screenshots, timestamps, and the HOA's own rules regarding private property boundaries. Your Honor, he said, not only was Mr. Bryce legally operating his business on his own commercial property, but he was repeatedly targeted by the plaintiff through unauthorized action, including this lawsuit. The judge looked impressed, or maybe just amused at the footage that shattered Karen's case. Then we rolled the footage on screen. Karen strolled across my lot, clipboard in hand, tearing down signs and marking spaces with red paint. Then, on a separate day, she returned in the middle of the night with 2 other board members, one of whom had already resigned, by the way, and taped a false capacity violation on my door. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of Karen's shoes on gravel. When the video ended, Judge Menendez simply said, "Ms. Palmer, would you like to explain this footage?" Karen stood slowly, face flushed. Those were temporary markings. We were just, surveying. At midnight, the judge asked, one brow raised. Karen opened her mouth, but no words came. A surprise witness. Then the door opened at the back of the courtroom. A man walked in, late 30s. Shirt tucked in, nervous, but purposeful. It was Marcus, one of the HOA's former board members. He'd resigned a month earlier, supposedly over personal reasons. He raised his hand. "Your Honor, may I say something?" Karen looked like she'd seen a ghost. The judge nodded. "Go ahead." Marcus stepped forward and cleared his throat. "I was on the board when Karen decided to start using Mr. Bryce's lot. I objected. She overruled me without a vote. Said no one would care, and if they did, she'd handle it. That's why I resigned." Dead silence. She didn't have our permission. None of this was official. Case closed. Almost. The judge leaned back, folded her hands, and addressed Karen directly. "Ms. Palmer, you brought this lawsuit with no board authorization, no legal standing, and based on false representations." She turned to us. "I am dismissing the claim. As for the countersuit, Mr. Bryce, your claim for damages will proceed." Karen sank into her chair, eyes wide, but I wasn't smiling. Not yet, because this wasn't just about clearing my name. This was about making sure she never did this to anyone else again. I thought the court win would be the end of it. Karen might have lost her legal battle, but like any entitled HOA tyrant cornered in public, she didn't take defeat lightly. The very next day, I returned to my lot to find spray paint graffiti across the front of my garage door. "Predator business. Shame on you." Below it, someone had dumped garbage bags across the driveway and blocked the entry gate with 2 shopping carts, both chained together with a bike lock. Security footage confirmed what I already suspected. Karen, in full view, at 4:16 a.m. No globes, no these guys, just rage and a hoodie that said #HOA Justice. I didn't call the cops, I called the press. The press smells blood. Remember that local journalist I'd tipped off earlier? She was hungry for a follow-up story. By noon we had a local TV van in my parking lot, the camera rolling as I walked the reporter through the security footage frame by frame. "It's harassment," I said plainly. "She lost in court, so now she's attacking my livelihood. But I have footage, I have witnesses, and I'm not backing down." We aired that same evening. Within 24 hours. The clip had over 90,000 views online. Karen had gone from HOA protector of property values to certified neighborhood villain. The board turns on her 2 days later. I got an unexpected visitor, Gregory, the same board member who'd warned me before, along with 4 other HOA members. They looked exhausted. "We're done," Gregory said. "We've scheduled an emergency HOA vote. Karen's out." I raised a brow just like that. He nodded. "There's enough pressure from the neighborhood now. After the court case and the news story, people are angry. One guy said he almost donated to her GoFundMe until he saw your video. He sent it to the whole block." The board wasn't just turning on her, they were dissolving her influence. Karen's final stunt. But Karen wasn't finished. The night before the HOA vote, she went full meltdown. She stormed into a neighborhood town hall, uninvited, and launched into a tirade with a portable microphone. "This man, this tow truck thug, has ruined our peaceful community. You people should be ashamed for siding with a bully." She went on and on, red in the face, pacing like a game show host with no audience. What she didn't know was that half the residents were filming it on their phones, and one of them, a teenager who lived next door to her, posted the full video online, titled, "Karen Goes Nuclear at HOA Meeting. Watch the Meltdown." It got over 400,000 views in 48 hours. By the end of the week, the HOA vote passed in a landslide. Karen was removed as president permanently. Justice with interest. A week later, the court processed my damages claim. Karen was officially ordered to pay restitution for business disruption, legal fees, vandalism, cleanup, defamation-related losses total $18,462.33. She tried to pay in monthly installments. The judge denied it. Her car towed. Her face redder than ever, and me. I expanded my lot. Put up new signs with bolder print, even added a second tow truck to the fleet. Nicknamed Karen Catcher. A week after Karen was removed as HOA president, I started noticing something strange. Inspections. At first, it was just a county zoning officer asking questions about my signage and the number of vehicles on my property. Then came a health department inquiry about a towing business, of all things. And then, the kicker, a fire marshal wanting to inspect my metal garbage can. This seems excessive, I said, trying to keep a straight face. The fire marshal rolled his eyes. Honestly, we've had 4 anonymous complaints about your property in 5 days. I didn't need a name. We both knew who was behind it. The paper trail backfires. My lawyer pulled a few strings and filed a public records request. A week later, we had a goldmine. Every single complaint had come from the same IP address. One link to Karen's home internet. No aliases, no VPN. She had submitted the forms using her real name, then deleted it and resubmitted anonymously. The stupidity was impressive, but here's where it got better. While cross-referencing her IP activity, one of the county clerks flagged something odd. Karen had filed multiple renovation permits for her own home over the past year, including one for a small decorative koi pond. There was no pond on her property, but there was a massive, unauthorized concrete patio built over a drainage easement. Bingo. The county strikes back. I didn't report it. I didn't have to. The fire marshal remembered the video from the courtroom and told his buddy in code enforcement. The buddy took a look, then his boss did. Within days, the city issued a notice of violation for illegal construction. Karen had 14 days to fix the issue or face fines. She responded by trying to blame me, claiming I'd spread false information. The city didn't buy it. In fact, her own backyard became the focus of a wider HOA audit. Turns out, she'd been skimming HOA funds to pay for landscaping, not just hers, but her sister's house across town, which wasn't even in the H district. Now, that's when the state got involved. The neighborhood turns for months. Karen had run the HOA like a private kingdom, barking orders, writing up bogus fines, demanding dues increases for beautification projects. But now, neighbors were banding together. Someone started a petition for a full forensic audit of the HOA's finances. Over 80% of residents signed it within a week, and then came the knock at my door. It was Gregory again. We're forming a new HOA leadership group, he said, and we want you on it. I nearly laughed. Me, after all that? He nodded. That's why. You stood your ground. You exposed the rot. You know how to deal with people like her. We need someone with a backbone. I didn't say yes right away, but I didn't say no either. Karen goes dark. Karen's house went quiet. No loud music, no HOA meetings on the porch, no barking orders in the street. Someone said she took a mental health break. Others claimed she was being investigated for embezzlement. I didn't dig the last I heard. Her koi pond lie cost her over $12,000 in fines and required her to rip out the entire patio and replant native grass under county supervision. Meanwhile, my business booming. 2 months had passed since Karen went dark. No HOA meetings, no passive-aggressive flyers, not even the usual complaints on Nextdoor. The quiet was almost eerie, but I knew better. Karen wasn't done. She was regrouping. So when the annual neighborhood fall festival rolled around, a long-standing HOA event at the local park, who slithered back onto the scene. Yep, Karen, wearing an oversized sun hat, a tight smile, and a clipboard. She stood at the main entrance like nothing had ever happened. Welcome, she chirped. Don't forget to enter the pumpkin carving contest. It was like watching a canceled reality TV star try to sneak back onto the airwaves. The setup: the event was being hosted by the newly restructured HOA leadership Gregory, some new faces, and yes, me. See, after some arm twisting, and maybe a bit of guilt from Gregory, I'd agreed to join the new board not because I wanted power, but because I refused to let another Karen seize it again. And this festival. This was our soft relaunch, but what Karen didn't know was that we had one special announcement planned for the end of the event end. I was the one holding the mic. Karen's grandstand around 3 p.m. Karen made her move. She marched up to the community table with her clipboard and loudly declared, as a former HOA president, I'd like to say a few words of encouragement. About unity, about healing, about Karen. Gregory interrupted politely. You're not on the schedule. I don't need to be on the schedule, she snapped. I'm a community leader. People listen to me. Some people turned toward the commotion. A few took out their phones. The current president gave her a choice. Step away, or leave the event entirely. She smirked. Fine, but I'll be heard one way or another. Oh, she would, but not the way she planned. My turn at the mic at 4 p.m. I stepped up to the stage platform. First off, I said, thank you all for coming. It's been a crazy year: lawsuits, lies, towing wars, and more drama than daytime television. Laughter rippled through the crowd, but I wanted to take a moment to say something important. Not just about our community, but about accountability. Clicked the remote. Behind me, a projector screen came alive. First, images of Karen's illegal parking demands, then court documents, then screenshots of her fraudulent permit requests, and the HOA fund misappropriations. Everything was redacted and legal, but clear enough to paint the full picture. This is what happens when leadership forgets they serve, not control. And this is why we're not just changing who leads this community, we're changing how. The crowd's verdict to Karen, still lurking near the food tables, turned pale. People pointed. Some cheered. One kid whispered, "That's the lady who tried to get Dad's car towed." Within minutes, she slinked out of the park and into her car. She didn't even stay for the pumpkin contest. And that clipboard? Someone found it in the trash. A new chapter by the end of the event. We'd launched our new community charter, transparent elections, term limits, recorded meetings, no use of HOA funds. Without Double O Provokerin, had tried to crash the party. But I had the mic, the receipts, and the people. And next to the food truck line, my brand new tow truck sat parked in full view, with a decal that read, "This property protected by karma." Just when I thought Karen had finally learned her lesson, she slithered back for one final strike, this time, going after something far more personal. My daughter, Maya, was 17, strata student, kind, quiet. She'd kept her head down through all the neighborhood drama, but she made the mistake of posting a TikTok showing our Halloween setup with a caption that read, "When your dad's HOA enemy ends up getting sued into silence, funny, yes, harmless, also yes." But Karen saw it and turned it into fuel. The smear campaign anonymous flyers started showing up at houses. Poorly printed images of Maya, blurred and blown up, with bold text that said, "Should this minor be mocking her elders? Is this the example we want for our community?" The worst part, Karen posted them from burner accounts online, pretending to be a concerned neighbor. But one of those flyers blew off a mailbox and landed in our yard with Karen's greasy fingerprint on the tape. Maya cried. My wife was livid, and me, I went quiet, because now, this was war. The setup behind the scenes. I didn't react publicly. That's what Karen wanted, another show. Instead, I called Mitch and Gregory and told them I was done playing defense. "Let's bury her," I said. Gregory smirked. "You don't even know the best part yet." Turns out, Karen had another skeleton hiding in her faux marble closet, her niece, specifically. The one Karen had secretly listed as a dependent to qualify for a local tax break, while the young woman actually lived in another city. Frauda, and guess who her niece worked for? Code enforcement, the same agency Karen had sixed on me months ago. So while Karen was trying to ruin my family's reputation with flyers, her own blood was quietly forwarding documents to the county DA. The eviction bombshell. We didn't have to wait long. 2 weeks later, a county marshal served Karen with a notice. She was being evicted, not from her own home but from the position she had created for herself, an HOA consultant. Job she invented to keep pulling strings behind the scenes, collecting checks for management services after she was voted out. The HOA board cut ties. Then the IRS showed up. I didn't even have to press charges. She was being audited for years of fake deductions, including made-up donations and property improvements that never existed. Karen's last public scene. The final act happened during the HOA's end-of-year meeting. Karen showed up, hair disheveled, ranting about conspiracies, waving a manila folder full of who-knows-what. She pointed at me and screamed, "You ruined everything. You think you're better than me." I stood calmly, holding up the flyer she made of my daughter. "You did that all by yourself, Karen." And then, from the back of the room, a soft voice said, "You don't represent this community anymore. You never did." It was her own niece. Karen's face froze. She stormed out of the room in silence, for the last time. Aftermath? Peace. Finally today, the HOA runs smoothly. We've got transparency, order, and for the first time neighbors actually enjoying each other's company. My towing business expanded. I opened a second lot on the other side of town. And Karen? Rumor has it, she moved in with a cousin out in rural Nevada, where there's no HOA to lord over. No one's seen her since, but I kept that flyer. The one she made of Maya. Framed it, hung it right above the garage, because nothing says victory. I tell people, like the losing side printing your daughter's face out of jealousy, and the sign on my driveway, this is not a public lot. Unless you're Karen, then it's a museum.